Same Quickie? This is gonna sound very similar to the gay cakes Quickie because apparently some people are stupid and need to be told twice. In 303 Creative LLC v. Elenis, a woman who designs websites refused to make websites for same-sex weddings. Let's be clear, just like the gay cakes case, she was not refusing to serve LGBT couples. She would have made any other website for them as both sides agreed. Also, as both sides agreed, it was not a case of giving them a pre-made template. This would have been a custom design, expressive in nature, and forcing her to make a website that violated her religious beliefs would have been forced speech under the First Amendment. For the majority, Gorsuch wrote, "The government may not compel a person to speak its own preferred messages, nor does it matter whether the government seeks to compel a person to speak its message when he would prefer to remain silent, or to force an individual to include other ideas with his own speech that he would prefer not to include. All that offends the First Amendment just the same." Sotomayor's dissent is high on rhetoric and low on the law. In fact, as Gorsuch wrote, "It is difficult to read the dissent and conclude we are looking at the same case. It reimagines the facts of this case from top to bottom." The dissent claims that Colorado wishes to regulate Ms. Smith's conduct, not her speech. Forget Colorado's stipulation that Ms. Smith's activities are expressive. The dissent suggests, over and over again, that any burden on speech here is incidental, all despite the 10th Circuit's finding that Colorado intends to force Ms. Smith to convey a message she does not believe. She also claimed that this was about a business refusing to serve members of a protected class, but both sides stipulated that no such thing was taking place. She would have made any other website for them and refused to make websites for straight people that were equally repugnant to her beliefs. Sotomayor is one of the ones who thinks that doing something for money makes it totes different. But as Gorsuch wrote, "The First Amendment extends to all persons engaged in expressive conduct, including those who seek profit." There's all sorts of language more resembling social media histrionics than legal opinion. Phrases like, "What a difference 5 years makes." "This is heartbreaking." She opined about the brave justices who once sat on this court. And she threw in non sequiturs like, "Who could forget the brutal murder of Matthew Shepard?" Well, who could forget that we've known for a decade that it was related to Shepard's dealing meth and one of his killers was his gay lover? She even threw in a separate but equal crack. Gorsuch wrote, "The dissent assures us that a company selling creative services to the public does have a right to decide what messages to include or not to include. But if that is true, what are we even debating? Instead of addressing the party stipulations about the case actually before us, the dissent spends much of its time adrift on a sea of hypotheticals." Doubtless, determining what qualifies as expressive activity protected by the First Amendment can sometimes raise difficult questions, but this case presents no complication of that kind. The parties have stipulated that Ms. Smith seeks to engage in expressive activity, and the 10th Circuit has recognized her services involve pure speech. Nothing the dissent says can alter this, nor can it displace the First Amendment protections that follow. Just another bad, embarrassing dissent from Sotomayor. I'm going to let Gorsuch have the last word. The dissent abandons what this court's cases have recognized time and time again. A commitment to speech for only some messages and some persons is no commitment at all.